Maruti Suzuki's People Technology presents Suzuki Connect with Navigate to Car and many other features.
Watch more, feel more. Dell.
It's Pakistan versus Afghanistan in the T20 World Cup. Who would have thought that this was going to be the top of the table clash? Yes, that's right. If Afghanistan managed to beat Pakistan today, they go on top of the table in Group 2 because of a superior run rate after their stunning performance versus Scotland. Joining us on the show is Shan Masood and Tom Moody. You're watching ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, presented by Maruti Suzuki and powered by Dell. Plenty of contest within the contest here. You're going to have a look at how the Afghanistan spinners face up to some informed batsmen of Pakistan. On the other end, you have these explosive Afghanistani batsmen up against some good fast bowling attack of Pakistan. We're going to dwell into all of that. Let me start with you, Tom. Unusual position for Pakistan because mostly this stage of the tournament, they are fighting in a do or die clash. Here they are fighting to be on top of the group. I wonder how they're going to cope up with this.
I think they're very happy to be coping with this situation. More often than not, it's nice to, find yourself in a strong position and settled in a tournament. You're quite right. Historically, Pakistan have always challenged themselves in the lead up to semi-finals and finals, but they've, successfully in the past managed to find their way to get to the final with a struggle, but they're in a strong position now. They're playing some very good cricket and they're full of confidence. Collectively as a group, they'll be coming into this game against Afghanistan beaming with confidence and looking forward to the opportunity.
Okay, if you look at this contest, you'd say that Pakistan definitely going as the favorite. But Shan, there is a bit of needle in this contest. We saw that during the 2019 World Cup as well, the fans clash. There is a bit of history. So I'm guessing both teams would be really geared up to win this particular contest.
No, I think the players have been very good. If you heard Rashid Khan yesterday in his press conference, and they've asked the set of fans to keep the emotions in check. And they're two nations that have gone through different things. Afghanistan with obviously the political turmoil in their country. So they're playing for something else. Pakistan with obviously losing those bumper series against England and New Zealand. So they both understand that as countries, they've had their struggles in the past. And they just want to play some good cricket, put the smile on people's faces, and hopefully not have any ugly scenes like we did in 2019, which were away from the ground, obviously.
Okay, latest news then coming from the venue is that Afghanistan have won the toss and they've decided to bat first. Tom, are you surprised? Because the trend that we've seen so far is every team wants to chase you.
Yeah, look, that is interesting. But again, I think, Afghanistan are probably wanting to defend using their bowling as their strength. And not putting the pressure on their batting, basically letting their batting group go out there, play without the pressure of a scoreboard chase. You go out there, get as many as you can, play with the freedom that we know that you can, and we as a bowling unit will back ourselves to stay in the contest.
Okay, Shan, interesting there, as Tom says, that you'd go in with your strength to do that in the second half of the inning. And clearly Afghanistan's strength at the moment is their bowling. The only worry that I see here, and we saw in the previous games as well, when the ball does get wet, we saw Tiksana struggling to get grip of that wet ball. And you've got, two finger spinners. I'm guessing Rashid may still manage being the wrist spinners, but the two finger spinners might struggle.
I think it's quite hard for the wrist spinner as well because he has to use his wrist and spin the ball. If the ball's not staying in his hands, it's going to give him some trouble. But look, Afghanistan have been pretty clear. They've come back on big wins against West Indies and Scotland in the same manner. So they believe that that's their strength. They want to put a total on the board. And one thing they probably will be looking at it is that when India and Sri Lanka batted yesterday in Dubai, they scored around 150. So if they can get 170, those extra 15-20 runs can really matter, and it can sort of take the dew out of the equation. Again, it's a toss that probably both sides, you expected Afghanistan to bat first after the previous two games, and you expected Pakistan to bowl first. So I think both teams are sticking to what they wanted to do, and it should be a good game.
Sean, another word from you. You've seen these Afghanistani batsmen play in the PSL as well. Very exciting to watch, especially the top three, top four. Would you like them to continue with this high risk, high reward sort of an approach, or change tactics because you're playing a team in form in Pakistan?
Look, I think they've sent out a statement by batting first that shows that probably their players are going to stick to their natural game as well. When you're batting first, that means you're sticking to your strengths. So you expect players individually to stick to their strengths as well. So I expect Zazai, I expect Shahzad to maybe see the first over or so, but they're going to take the game on, whether it's Imad, whether it's Shaheen. And the thing with Afghanistan is they sort of they bat deep as well. They're not a six batting sort of team. They bat till number 8, number 9. They've got decent batsmen coming in. Rahmanullah Gurbaz, who played for us at Multan Sultans, was a very good batsman. He's a very well-rounded batsman. So he can take the game on. He has proper orthodox cricket shots as well. He's equally good on the fast bowlers and spinners. They've got Najibullah Zadran. Askar Afghan can sort of play both roles. Nabi and Rashid, they're two good batsmen. They sort of play their trade in World League cricket as well, and they're pretty successful at it. So again, Afghanistan bat deep, and Pakistan will have to make sure they're on spot with the ball again.
Okay, the news then coming from Dubai is that not only have Afghanistan won the toss, they've gone in with an unchanged 11, and that is something that you did expect. Tom, I'm going to come to you. And this, I was talking about that high risk, high reward strategy that Afghanistan go in with. The one thing that you clearly notice as far as their batting is concerned, that not too many singles and doubles, especially in the power play. They rely a lot in boundary, most if you compare with other teams that are playing. But then if I look at that batting order with Shehzad on top, not too much scope then to run singles and doubles anyway.
Look, again, they're playing to their strength. Shahzad's never really been someone that's been an accumulator. He's more of a power hitter. And I think if you look at the numbers in this day and age in T20 cricket, it's really about percentage of boundaries. There was in the early stages of T20 cricket, the focus around eliminating dot balls and rotation of strike. That's clearly still important, but there is more of a focus on a high percentage of boundary hitting. So they'd be quite happy for Shahzad to go out there and to blaze away. But that's not going to be easy because Pakistan, something they have done very well to date is bowl well, and particularly early with the new balls. So the likes of Afridi is a huge obstacle to climb in those power play overs. So what they need to do is limit their wicket damage in those first 6 overs, along with trying to play their free-spirited game.
One is to limit the damage, and we'll get into the Afghanistan middle order a little later. But Sean, the other thing, this carefree approach that they have, Dubai, a big ground, 6 hitting may not be easy. So once that power play is over, how does that come into play?
I think if we're playing on the same pitch as yesterday, there will be a smaller and big sides. So they'll have to use that left hand, right hand combination, and they'll have to use it effectively. Again, Dubai can be a bit trickier than Sharjah. Yes, they played Scotland and Sharjah, and they hit about 11 sixes over there and 13 fours. But for me, the main trick for Afghanistan would be not to go into that little bit of a West Indies zone. I was reading an article yesterday where the second most highest 6 hitting side in the world after 2016 till 2021, but they're also the second most in terms of consuming dot balls. So to put up a good score against Pakistan, because Pakistan really sort of, like they did to New Zealand, like they did to India, they really stiffen you up initially with those dot balls. They've bowled very economically. So Afghanistan's main thing would also be to keep the strike rotating and not bog down and play too many dot balls in the first 6.
But how is it? And I was wondering that, Tom, because most teams are struggling to play that, all-out attacking cricket. How is it that Afghanistan has managed to do so? Or probably you think it's one thing is that they're very accustomed to the conditions there. It's almost like a home venue. Or do you think the sample size at the moment is too small because they've played that just one-off game in Super 12 versus Scotland?
Yeah, look, the sample size is a little bit too small, but I think also you've got to look at the backdrop of Afghanistan cricket. They've been brought up on more of a diet of short form cricket, whether that be 50 over cricket or T20 cricket, and that's where they have I suppose built their reputation and built their skills collectively as a team, but I think more so individuals. We're seeing some of, the best T20 cricketers around the world that are coming from Afghanistan. I think that for them to suddenly change their style and their mode of play is always going to be a challenge. So, it's going to be a difficult task for them this evening against a good attack, but I think they can't steer away from what has made them successful, and that is to play that sort of aggressive brand.
Okay. Once they do end up losing a few wickets because of that sort of approach that Afghanistan has, that's where do you think, Shan, the Asghar Afghan role comes into play? He's that one who's the accumulator in between all the power hitters, Zazai, Shehzad, Gurbaz, Najibullah. He's that one anchor man.
I don't necessarily think one anchorman. Even he's good with the spinners when it comes to taking the spinners on. Gurbaz is somebody who's batting at 3 for a reason. If an early wicket falls, he goes there, he stabilizes the innings, he can take the attack on as well if he comes in the middle. He did that against Scotland, where he was at run a ball or less than run a ball for a while and finished off on 46 of 30 balls. Nabi, again, is someone that can promote himself. For Karachi Kings, he was batting at number 4 and number 5, and that was a pretty sort of solid Karachi Kings batting lineup as well. So they've got different people that can sort of, if they lose early wickets, that can sort of come there and sort of stabilize the innings. And again, for Pakistan, it'll be important to take those early wickets for Afghanistan to play that sort of role.
Okay, I'm also getting to hear that Pakistan have gone unchanged with the same 11. Shan, did you expect that, or do you think this was that one game they could have tried a player or two, or then why change the winning combination? Afghanistan can be that dangerous team.
Yeah, you don't change winning combinations because Pakistan's middle order really hasn't sort of had that time in the middle. This game itself is very important in terms of Pakistan to fight for that number 1 spot, like we said, to avoid England at all costs in the semi-finals. So there are a lot of things that Pakistan still have to do, and that middle order really needs sort of a gig. And hopefully today is one where they'll come under test against a quality bowling attack. Let's see how they cope with that.
Okay, Tom, I always wanted to pick your brains about the Afghanistan spinners because they are with you during the IPL when you're with Sunrisers Hyderabad. I know they're going to be coming into bowl in the second innings, but I always wonder, how are they with each other? Do they strategize? Do they plan that, listen, I'll be that attacking one, you can just, give some flight and you can get the wickets, I'll try and control from one end?
Well, I think that they know each other very well, particularly the two that you're referring to, and that is Nabi and Rashid Khan. They know each other very well, and they've got different roles. Rashid Khan normally bowls. They try to hold him as late as possible, more often than not. And Nabi, you'd see him bowl maybe a couple of overs in the power play. And Nabi's an excellent matchup bowler against left-hand batters. So, quite often he'll start against, left-handers, or he'll come back into the attack when left-handers come into bat, and he bowls very well against the left-handers. The real sort of dark horse trump card for them is Mujib, that seems to fly under the radar a lot. Mujib is, coming into this World Cup in a lot of good form. He bowled beautifully against Scotland. But he's not only a wicket threat, but he's very, very difficult to get away, like Rashid Khan is. So, they've got a really interesting, diverse variety of spin, which is, for any batsman, it's a bit of a handful and a bit of a nightmare. And I'm sure Shan could expand more on it, given that he's a current player and he's faced them over recent years. But they are a very, very challenging outfit. And when you've got 3 bowlers that are definitely going to bowl 12 overs out of the 20 available, it does put a stranglehold on the innings.
Shan, all yours.
Absolutely. I think Tom's right with Mujib, and if I had to pick a bowler, it'd be him as well. just because teams would be more focused on Rashid, and they'll be sort of very worried about how do we face Rashid, and this guy will come under the radar, and that's when he's threatening. So if you try and take him on just because you're trying to avoid Rashid, then you have to score runs of somebody. Mujib becomes an even dangerous bowler when you take him on. And then Nabi's got a lot of discipline, whether it's power play, whether it's even bowling to the right-handers. When we talk about Babar Azam is probably one of the best players in the world. We saw Nabi bowling really well to him at the 2019 World Cup, and he's equally confident on the right-handers as well. So you've got a lot of variety. And then with this variety, like I've said before in the preview, Naveenul Haq is a dangerous customer as well. He's going to be backing he's going to be playing a pivotal role for the spinners to dominate. If he's going to pick up, let's say, a few early wickets or how he bowls at the death, that's going to be sort of a very good matchup of how Afghanistan's other bowlers sort of come to the play and help their spinners to really attack in the game and pick wickets.
Interesting point. Shan talks about Naveen ul Haq. We're so obsessed with the Afghan spinners that, he's that experienced seamer that they have. But Shan, just another word on, because we were talking about the spinners and Tom mentioned that Nabi is usually the guy who bowls in power play. But now you got two right-handers in Pakistan as far as the openers are concerned. Mujib, you reckon, is going to play that role now? Because, him being the mystery spinner doesn't really matter if you got a right or a left.
Of course, and Mujib taking the ball sort of both ways, just keep the batsman guessing. He'll probably bowl stump to stump on that good heart length, making the batsman guess. It's almost impossible to use your feet against him with the new and skittish new ball. But again, what depends on Mujib being effective in that power play is how that other end is going to hold up. Hopefully, they'll not concede any runs from there, or they might want a wicket or two and sort of bring a new batsman in for Mujib to be really effective. So for Pakistan, again, Babar and Rizwan would have to play out that power play really well as they have been in this competition and much before that as well.
After that power play is done, Tom, that's where you reckon you're going to have the likes of Hafiz, Shoaib Malik, because their experience of playing these Afghanistan spinners, especially in that middle over, is going to be very crucial for Pakistan.
Yeah, we saw how important the experience was in the last game for Pakistan. Shoaib Malik really, was the skipper of the ship, if I could put it that way, out in the middle, just to guide the team home. Yeah, Asif Ali's power at the end was certainly something to admire. But I felt the key to that success was Shoaib Malik's calmness and his maturity and his leadership. But both those players are so experienced. They've played against these spin bowlers on regular occasions, more often than not in the PSL. And also in the Caribbean League when they've matched up and played against each other. So they're very familiar with them, and that doesn't give you the absolute license that you're going to have success against them because they're so good at what they do. But at least it gives you some confidence where you understand what your approach is. You've got a good game plan that's worked previously. You've had plenty of chance to think through how that works. And you can go into that contest with confidence.
Okay, final comments from you two gentlemen. Tom, I'll start with you. What is that sort of total you reckon Afghanistan is going to be looking at?
I would have thought north of 150 is going to be important for them. I think, let's be realistic about it. Ideally they'd like 170, 180, but I really don't think they've got the batting armoury against this Pakistan bowling attack. So I think if they got 150 plus, their bowling will be happy to back themselves to try to contain that.
Shan, we saw Pakistan chase down 150 odd versus India, but different bowling attacks, Afghanistan and India. You reckon if they were to make that 150, as Tom said, that should be a realistic target. Of course, you'd like 170. Pakistan would be confident?
I think Pakistan will be confident by anything that's around 150. What I will say is the most important phase will be this power play because Pakistan have bowled really well in the power play. They've not let India or New Zealand get away. Plus, they've gotten a wicket sort of each in the power plays. And if Afghanistan can have a decent power play where they score around 45, 50 runs and they're one wicket down, that can really put pressure in the middle because Pakistan have been bowling pressure free in the middle. So let's see how Pakistan start up and if Afghanistan can put that pressure on the middle overs in Pakistan by having a good power play.
Okay, before I let you go, I wonder, Tom, have you been watching the game that is still on, Bangladesh, West Indies?
I've just been trying to, at the top of my screen, keep half an eye on it because what a thrilling finish.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to know your thoughts. I mean, from where they were at one point, 142, middle of the innings, you would have thought should have been a cakewalk for Bangladesh. Not quite.
Yeah, look, I think you can never call that on a surface in Sharjah. I think
Uh,
it's always going to be a challenge chasing runs there. If it was in Dubai, yeah, definitely. Bangladesh will be disappointed, but it's always a difficult chase on a surface where batting is challenging, where it's a little bit slow. It also it skids through a little bit lower than you'd expect. So your shots down the ground are so important, and playing across the line can be, could be the end of you. So no surprise to see chasing hard there in those conditions.
Okay, Shan, I hate to take any sides, and I'm not. I equally would have been happy at Bangladesh won or West Indies, but just in favor of the West Indies, you wouldn't want to see the defending champions being knocked out so early.
Of course, that's the thing. You want to keep the tournament alive, and no disrespect to Bangladesh. I think they're a top class side when it comes to T20 cricket. But just for the tournament, if you had to pick one between the two, and I hated this match today because it meant that either one would be knocked out, and you never want that match so early in the tournament. So West Indies, just because they're defending champions and they have the ability to go on and win the tournament, let's see whether that does happen or not.
All right, Tom Moody, Shan Masood, thanks so much for joining us, helping us build up to that game, Pakistan versus Afghanistan. We'll let you two gentlemen go because waiting on the sideline are the two other experts that are going to analyze that Bangladesh-West Indies game for us. The game that West Indies won by 3 runs, went down right to the wire. Andre Russell bowling that last over. I Right, Daren, are you with us? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Okay. Okay, super. Okay. Plenty to talk about, right? So okay, Darren, first words to you, explain that. How happy are you?
Well, I must say that it was a nail biter. It was too close to call. Even in that last over, it could have gone either way. The quality of cricket that we saw from both teams, very much symbolic of where they sit in the standings at the bottom of that Group 1 in the Super 12. So you look at West Indies and their bowling. Yes, you would say that they were quite disciplined, but 3 run-out opportunities, a couple drop chances, really not the quality of on-field play you would want from a team in a T20 World Cup and in a must-win situation. So very, very disappointing for Bangladesh. But I think, both these teams, they've just not gotten it right in terms of all departments of the game. I must also say what the West Indies will walk away with is that sense of belief. The sort of contributions from Jason Holder, Roston Chase will now confirm that there must be starters in West Indies teams going forward. Even Andre Fletcher, plenty of people would have questioned his inclusion into this West Indies squad of 15. He had to come on the field and he really didn't help in the effort towards this win. But the West Indies will take this win. They will analyze what has transpired and they will look to press on and probably push themselves into the semi-final if it can happen.
Okay, Shahriar, I know you must be gutted with that performance. I'm going to get into the details a little later, but as Darren points out there, the biggest difference you reckon between these two teams, because it was such a close contest, just 3 runs separating the two teams, was the fielding?
Yeah, both of the teams had bad day when they were fielding. But I'm very disappointed that Bangladesh had worse time in the fielding. Look at Roston Chase's catch. That was as it gets when he was dropped by Mahadi. Roston Chase scoring something around 38-39. Nicholas Puran came. There was an easy stamping chance. We missed. Nicholas Puran scored 40 runs. Roston Chase, once again, he was dropped when he was something around 30, 31. He ended up scoring 40. So these are the runs Bangladeshi batsmen had to make. And when you are chasing, when your team is not in the best shape, these 40, 50 runs matters. And ultimately, you lost by 3 runs. So, Bangladeshi players, they just didn't help themselves. We are all disappointed. I know Bangladeshi players are disappointed, but if you're not helping yourself, no one is going to come and help you out.
Where do you think, Shahriar, Bangladesh lost it? Because this seemed like they were in control of the chase. Yes, the required run rate may have been climbing, but then you had Mohammedullah showing some good form. Litton Das had been batting throughout this innings. It seemed like everything was under control. Where do you think they lost?
Nikhil, yes, Litton Das batted quite well, I believe. If you look at the context of the game, it was a decent innings. Mahmudullah showed some form, but we didn't see any kind of constructive partnership in this match. Every time there was supposed to be a partnership, the partnership broke. So you cannot win a cricket match batting alone. Yes, you can if the score is something around 80 and you are chasing 80 in a T20 match. But if you're scoring 140 against world champions, yes, West Indies were not as at their best, but still they are world champions. So you cannot battle and walk away trying alone. There should have been partnerships, but there was no partnerships at all. Litton Das tried, Mahmudullah tried, but if there was bigger partnership among any two of the batsmen, it would have been easier. And Bangladesh didn't start well. Then it was all Litton Das. Later part, Mahmudullah came. But I think in first 10 to 12 overs, Bangladesh lost it.
It was that power play once again, and that's where the West Indian bowlers
Nikhil,
stepped out.
I'm not worried about the power play batting. Like power play, yes, both of the teams are not doing that great. But after power play, there was no intensity. You don't have to take 10 runs per over because Sharjah wicket is difficult. But you have to have some intensity, some continuity over batting. And unfortunately, I must say Bangladesh is not having that at all in this tournament.
Let's get your views on that, Daren, that he talks about that intensity missing. And I'm a bit surprised because you had 3 very experienced customers there. You had Litton Das, you had Mushfiqur batting at that time, and then you had Mohammedullah batting at that time. If you needed any players to show any intensity, you'd punt on these 3 players that were there. Yet it wasn't to be seen, as Shahriar points out.
I think we must take into consideration the conditions at Sharjah when we analyzing how teams have gone in different phases. I agree with Shahriar that both teams were below average in the power play overs, but when you look at the numbers, Bangladesh scoring 70 and just losing 2 wickets in that middle phase of the innings to set the game up, you would think that they played that phase very well. I was quite happy with the intensity. That's a runs per over of 7.7 as compared to the West Indies. I think they scored only around a run a ball in that phase of the innings. So Bangladesh was nicely poised for this run chase and to win this game. They were 99 for 4 after 15 overs. And with Captain Mahmudullah and Aset Litton Das, you expected that Bangladesh will cross the line easily. What I didn't like was that shot played by Mushfiqur Rahim. Yes, we know that he's an unorthodox type of player, but you got to adjust your approach given the situation that is before you. And when you're coasting to a target score, there's no need to take that unnecessary risk, especially when you're batting with a set batsman like Litton Das. So that sort of triggered a new batsman coming to the crease and really would have put Bangladesh a little bit under pressure for the remaining runs to have. Having said that, I must also credit the West Indian bowlers. Yes, it was a high-intensity situation. They continued to stick to their basics. Bravo, in particular, in that penultimate over after being struck for a 6. He only conceded 9, and that was excellent. And I felt that Andre Russell, in recent times, he's not been the best in terms of bowling form. And for him to have the responsibility to defend 13, it could have gone either way. But credit to Russell, he held his nerve. That's where the experienced side of a T20 player comes to the fore in those high-octane situations, and the West Indies prevailed.
All right, Darren, I can't thank you enough for leading me to my next question, which is exactly what I wanted to ask Shahriar, because you talk about that shot from Mushfiqur. Not trying to pinpoint, not trying to pick one particular player, Shahriar, but that shot, as he talks about, too risky to play at that stage because, the chase wasn't something that you had to go at 10 and over. You could have controlled the game from there, and especially an experienced batsman like him.
That shot, though it was in a T20 match, that shot reminded me Sachin Tendulkar that Sydney innings. He was getting out playing cover drives, and he never played a cover drive and scored 200 in that innings. Mushfiq Rahim, how many times you have seen him getting out with the sweeps and reverse sweeps? Yes, he plays it well, but sometimes you just cannot take so much chances. In this tournament, only he has got out playing sweeps, I think, twice, and return the set batsman. You didn't need to do that in a slow surface. Yes, in a fast surface you can paddle, and the ball goes for 4 and 6s. But in that slow surface, you just never needed that to play that shot. You could have played in front of the wicket. There were so many gaps. There's smaller ground. He can hit over mid wicket. He can hit over mid on. He can play cover drive. But why that shot? He's trying to play every single time he goes out to bat. It's not working for him. He's experienced enough to understand. Yes, it's very easy for us to make comments when we are sitting at home in an AC room watching matches on television. The players are playing in the heat condition, all the pressures they are feeling, but still he is experienced enough to understand that this sweep shot is not working for him, and he shouldn't play that.
Before I go to Darren, one more comment from you, Shahriar. What did you make of that idea of having Shakib open the innings?
I think it was a great move because when Saki was bowling, we saw him, he was limping a bit. So I think the team management of Bangladesh thought, okay, why not put Shakib, and he tries his luck. If it connects, then okay. If it doesn't, then he doesn't need to bat in the middle overs because he's not feeling great. And just trying to move things around. Sometimes you need to change things to change the scenario. I think it was a bold move, but unfortunately it didn't pay it off that well.
Okay, two players that I really want to talk to you about, Darren, from the West Indian lineup. You briefly spoke about Andre Russell. Should we now resign ourselves to the fact that he's never going to be an out-and-out express fast bowler anyway? But if he's doing the job, then you might as well have him as that all-rounder. Can West Indies continue to have Russell in this avatar?
Well, I think they can, and purely because they have a six bowler and they have someone who can play that role, so that Andrew Russell is not required to bowl a full complement of 4 overs. And when you play a guy like Roston Chase, who's an all-rounder who can bowl 4 overs for you, then it gives you options. So it all depends on the other players in that West Indian side. That is how Karen Pollard and the think tank will look at Andre Russell. They can't afford to just pick 5 bowlers and expect Russell to bowl 4 overs of the 20. So I think going forward, that is what the West Indies will do. They will ensure that there is cover for him, especially with the ball. Russell being relied upon to bat maybe by the 13th, 14th over. That's a role that Karen Pollard is playing. They have resigned to the fact that Russell could give them a cameo maybe in the last 2 or 3 overs of a T20 inning. So that's his role in this side. Fortunately for the West Indies, Russell came good with the last over of the match and was able to take the West Indies over the line. So his injury and his injury history will be a limiting factor in his career going forward.
You're talking about going forward. The other player I wanted to speak to you about, Chris Gale. Not quite the Chris Gale that we are accustomed to seeing, and somehow you accepted that fact as well. You reckon that he should open the innings, did that as well. But what do you see the future? Is it restricted to this tournament, or how do you see going forward in this particular tournament? Do you now reckon he needs to be benched for the games going forward because West Indies are still alive now?
Look, the West Indian selectors and Karen Pollard, they made it clear to the West Indian public and all cricket supporters of the West Indies team that they are going to be investing in Chris Gale for this ICC Men's T20 World Cup. And at this stage of the tournament, there's no turning back. They have already committed themselves to that decision. And whether Chris Gayle is the better of the two choices that they have to partner with Evan Lewis, and that second option is Lendl Simmons, that's a call that the captain and the coach in the UAE will need to make as the tournament progresses. Thus far, it's been Chris Gayle getting the nod ahead of Lendl Simmons, and more so today. If Chris continues to fail, he failed today, that's a judgment call that the West Indian selectors will need to make. They've got to park aside the Chris Gayle of yesteryear. He's a shadow of himself as a T20 batsman. He's high on age, so there is no sort of accommodation they should make for the reputation that he has. If he's not performing, then the hard decision must be made to get a replacement so that they can get performance.
Final word to you, Shahriar. I know there are going to be some sort of post-mortem now because practically Bangladesh are out of the tournament. I don't know if they're out mathematically. I'm not too good at math, but practically, as I said, they're out of the tournament. There are going to be dissection of what happens. What do you think going forward now lies for Bangladesh?
Bangladesh needs the team's confidence back. Bangladesh came into this World Cup with a lot of high hope and high confidence because Bangladesh won 3 consecutive series. They beat Australia, they beat New Zealand. Bangladesh players were very confident about themselves, but after the result we have got so far, the main challenge for the team and the boys will be get the confidence back and start winning matches. The Bangladesh has been brilliant when they are playing at home. Bangladesh sometimes have done well away, but if we look at this performance of this World Cup, it hasn't been great. And when Bangladesh comes back to home, they are going to play a very spirited Pakistani side. So I think this is the key. You need to get your confidence back, and then the team and the team management and the board will look how Bangladesh team can go forward, especially in T20 cricket.
All right, Shahriar and Nafees, Daren, Ganga, we'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for joining us, gentlemen. So West Indies live to fight another day. The defending champions, I'm afraid for Bangladesh, this could be the end of the road. Of course, they have a few games remaining, but mathematically, maybe now very, very tough, or almost impossible for them now to make the semi-finals. You are watching ESPN Quick Info T20 Timeout, presented by Maruti Suzuki and powered by Daren.
Maruti Suzuki's People Technology presents Suzuki Connect with Navigate to Car and many other features.
Watch more, feel more, Dell.